Hello, my name is Kirsten and my research project is called Diffusive Processes in Mineral Processing. My project is right at the end of the mining process, right over here. If you have a problem, fantastic. Visit your nearest university's math department. You are guaranteed to find a mathematician to help you solve your problem. It might be daunting to plunge right in, and you might want to test the waters first. We have a week-long study group every year where companies present a problem and us as a group of mathematicians aim to solve or at the very least provide insight into their problems. This year we had two problems. The first is where a company is extracting soil and uses an inner sleeve. They previously used a plastic sleeve, but that was only good for a one-time use. For a more sustainable operation, they used a metal trough that bends to make the sleeve. As mathematicians, we advised where to make incisions and bend in the metal sleeve to increase durability. The second one focused on a dewatering system, where water and sediment is placed along the conveyor belt and water filters through, but the sediment settles and the water is trapped on top. We have machinery called vipers that agitate the sediment and allows for more water to filter through. We found out that having more than two vipers is unnecessary, and what is the best distance along the conveyor belt to place the first and the second viper. Coming back to the consortium, Linda's work and my work is closely linked. As you've heard, she is developing a sensor, and you might ask yourself, but where is the mathematics? And it's right here. We want to understand how iron 3 interacts with the sensor. We look at this in two parts. In the microenvironment, we look at iron 3 interacting with the crystals in the polymer, because this interaction is what affects the changes in luminescence. Then we ask the question, how does iron 3 interact with the MOF crystals in the polymer? In the macroenvironment, we look at how iron 3 travels through solution and the polymer to interact with the crystals. Understanding this, we know how long to expose the sensor to the solution for an accurate reading. Then we ask the question, what physical properties can optimize exposure time? Let's consider the microenvironment. Here we see what the crystals look like. I'm particularly interested in the atomic scale of what these crystals look like. This is what the crystals look like at an atom level. This picture is the top view, and the unit cells have depth. So if we look into a pore, there is a column of atoms going into the slide, and these unit cells are also repeated outwards. And on the far right, we have what is called a hydrated iron 3, where we have our iron in the center and water surrounding it. And we want to know, how does iron 3 interact with the crystal? There are two ways of calculating the interaction energy and forces between the crystal and the hydrated iron. The first is called molecular dynamics. This calculates the interaction between each atom. So if we look at an atom by the hydrated iron interacting with each atom on the MOF crystal. The second approach which I used is calculating the interaction between shapes, where we isolate a pore and we approximate it using a cylinder. The iron 3 is approximated by a point and two concentric spheres. Now we can answer the question, how does iron 3 interact with the crystals? Iron 3 is attracted to the crystal pore, but is too large to fit inside the pore. This is good news, because it is easier to wash the sensor and reuse it, a cost saving. We also found out that our method of using shapes to calculate the interactions is about 500 times faster than the molecular dynamics simulation, in addition to giving reliable results. Other metals are attracted to the crystal, however, this particular crystal is iron 3 selective in terms of sensing. Taking a step back and now looking at the sensing application. The lab is a controlled environment and we know the concentration of iron 3 in a sample. However, on site we don't know what the concentration is and we want to know How does iron 3 diffuse or travel through the solution and into the polymer to interact with the crystals? This is a cross-section of the sensing environment. We study how iron 3 travels through the solution and polymer. And at the bottom, we have the optic fiber. There are many crystals distributed throughout the polymer, but first we consider a crystal at the solution polymer boundary. To answer our question for the macro environment, we study properties that can influence sensing time. So the diffusivity of iron 3 in the solution and in the polymer, and the relative sizes between the two diffusion constants. The association rate, this is how quickly iron 3 will bind to a crystal, and dissociation rate, how quickly the iron 3 will unbind to the crystal, and finally flux of iron 3 through the crystal. We can answer the question, what physical properties can optimize exposure time? We can increase the diffusivity of iron 3 in the solution, the association rate, and decrease flux and shorten the exposure time. If we decrease the diffusivity of iron 3 in the polymer, this does shorten exposure time, but this makes for poor sensor functionality. We also found out that knowing the dissociation rate can help predict iron 3 concentration. Having a good sensor helps reduce material and time wastage and gain a deeper understanding into system operations. Having a mathematician alongside experiments reduces the range in which you need for parameter testing, which makes life less expensive. All in all, look for us. But first, you need to identify that you have a problem and seek out our help. We are friendly enough. Some publications, and a big thank you to all of these wonderful people, the Australian Government, PRIF Consortium, and UniSA. Thank you.